Welcome to the Cosmic Mystic Podcast, the space for healers, coaches, and conscious leaders on a mission to elevate collective consciousness. I'm your host, Danie Simoni, a former Catholic disciple turned eclectic witch, guiding you through the realms of astrology, spirituality, and the quest to escape the matrix. It's time to unleash the mystic within, let the transformation begin. I can tell you my attachment style. I can tell you the exact age I learned to make myself smaller. I can walk you through my astrology chart, my patterns, and the story behind every single one of them. And for years, I could not tell you where I was actually going, where I even wanted to go. That, my friend, is what we're going to talk about today. Because you can be fluent, you can know your own psychology and still not have a plan. And my friend, you've done the work. I know you've done the work. I feel like a broken record here. We were never taught this. We were never taught that insight, awareness, and direction, self-leadership, are two completely different skills. So we are going to name the gap that nobody names. Let's make this a little concrete here for you because the gap, right? I hear this in the coaching industry a lot. The gap, right? What is the gap? So the gap, right, is I've seen it, and here's how I've seen it in my own life, and I see it in clients' lives. The gap looks like saying yes to things that no longer fit you. And that could be maybe it stopped fitting a year ago, 5 years ago, 10 years ago, a week ago, right? It just doesn't fit now, but you are still saying yes, right? It looks like when you're able to explain in detail why you do the things you do, and yet you're still doing it. Explaining is not the same as redirecting, right? Explaining is not the same as shifting or directing the energy. That's why my community, my framework is all called Sacred CEO, Chief Energy Officer. We are redirecting, we are directing our energy, right? It also might look like scrolling social and seeing either Pinterest, the reels that are like showing somebody's vision board or somebody's 5-year plan and having a sense of envy and shame because you like those ideas, but you can't seem to write them down for yourself. And my friend, like, this is frustrating because you've done the work and you still feel lost. And that can be very confusing because you keep waiting, right, for the lost, quote unquote, feeling to just resolve itself, right? Once you understand yourself enough, well enough, then you won't be lost anymore. Well, my friend, I'm here to tell you, understanding yourself doesn't automatically give you the path or give you direction. So let's go a little bit deeper here. Healing work, care what it is, therapy, somatic work, inner child work, soul reclamation, shadow work, breath work, all of that works to help you understand your past, help you become fluent in you in the past. It's a backward, like, facing structure. And it's great. I mean, I do this work myself and I guide people through this work, right? And what I've come to learn on my journey is, especially like with myself and then, working with clients, like you learn to understand what happened, why it happened, and how it shaped who you are. And yet there is still another skill, and that is stating, declaring, identifying the future. I often do this exercise with clients when we might be talking about something and I'll say, okay, well, that's what you don't want. What do you want? And that question, like, they get like deer in headlights, right? Or they still go on with the I don'ts, right? And so one of the things I learned when I was training in NLP, this is neuro linguistic programming, and we do this at prac level. So if you've ever studied NLP, you might have heard this. In our advanced training, we got into this even more, and this is kind of where I picked that out from. But it's timelines, right? Because we started learning how to work with timelines, and in the sense of how do you view time? Like, how do you experience time? And so this exercise that I like to do with clients is, and I'll ask it here, and I invite you to think of this for yourself, is if I were to say, point to the future, where do you point? Point to the future. Do it now. Point to the future. And then I want you to now point to the past. Go ahead. Point to the past. Okay. So you pointed to the future, you point to the past, now point to the present. Where's the present? Okay. Now, in all honesty, I don't care where you pointed. I do want to point something out though. For me, the first time I did this, right, and I'm in a room with probably about 25 other people at the time. And yeah, I think it was in our smaller group. So about 25 people. And when they said point to the future, I immediately pointed in front of me. Okay. You might have done that too. You might have put it in front of me. Some people pointed up. Some people pointed behind them. Some people pointed to either their right or their left side. They were, and depending upon how you point to the future, is how you are consciously experiencing it. So let me give you an example. I point to the future. For me, my orientation to the future is that my future is ahead of me. My future is something I am stepping into. My future is something that I am coming to, right? I'm coming to it. If I were to point to my right side, my future is parallel to me. There's no distance. It's right next to me. It's right here, right? And for some people, it can feel like the future is like suffocating, right? My placement with it, my feeling with it is that it's like it's all happening, right? Everything is all happening. There it's not distant from me. It's just right here next to me, right? The people who pointed it to behind them, the future was behind them, means that their past is in front of them. Now, I've had a number of clients who have done this exercise with me. And when they are pointing either to the past as the back, like behind them, or even below them or above them, I'm sorry, past above them, they often have trouble experiencing or thinking of the future. Now, from my experience, it's generally because their future, right, is like their let me say it the other way. Their past is right there. For me, my past being behind me, it's like, "Oh, that's like, we're done with that. Like, it's over. It's behind me." Like, I could turn back and look at it, but, it's behind me. But people whose past is in front of them, they're constantly looking at it. They're constantly wanting to step into it, moving into it, right? They're in some ways, their experience with time, right, is in the sense of the past is that they're always in the past. And so if we're always looking at the past, wouldn't it be hard to look at the future? Now, as I've worked with clients, sometimes we can shift that, right? And we can move it so maybe it's to the side of them, maybe it's above them or below them. Um, but getting it to be the opposite direction takes some time. Because the way that it can feel like we've done it, right? Like, where I'm like, "Okay, well, let's just switch them. Let's see what happens," right? And when we do that, they get so disoriented. They're like, "Whoa." Right? They get dizzy and they're like, "Ah," right? It messes with their mind. And so what we work, right, to be able to help them to do that. Now, right, as I was talking you through that, that might be something that you've experienced, or maybe you're like me, maybe the future's before you, but you still, right, you still can't see it. So, this is a muscle, right? This is a muscle that we build in stating the future. And when I say this, like I love vision boards, don't get me wrong, but this isn't like hoping and praying and wishing, right? This isn't like a beautiful, aesthetically pleasing vision board. And trust me, when I do vision boards, my clients that have done vision boards with me, I do a vision board in our retreat every year. And last year we did an embodiment board over a vision board and I loved it. But even the process of it, right, is very intuitive and it's very different than picking these aesthetically pleasing or what you think you're supposed to have on your vision board. It's like it comes out from a very uh, intuitive place. But this is a muscle, okay? This is a muscle that we work on, we build. So I want to tell you a story about past Danie. Now, the first time that I started to realize, I would say, is that I I didn't understand, or I didn't know that there was this skill, right, of being able to vision the future or state the future, declare the future, any of that. And for me, this was many moons ago. Baby Danie on her healing journey. I had went to my love and I. We had went to a Bob Proctor event that he held in LA. And it was when we were living in LA. We were probably both of us very early on in our own awakening or healing journey. And we were doing this visioning exercise. And he asked, "What do you want? What do you want? What do you really want?" And he put 15 minutes on the clock. And I'm in a room, right, with, I don't know, probably like 500 people. And right away, I look around the table and people just start pen to paper, right? And just start writing. Because we had 15 minutes to describe it in all the detail. It was his message to us. Write it in all in detail. Be as detailed as you possibly can. And I sat there, right? Noticing it, and everybody just went pen to paper. And I was just staring at my blank page. I had no clue what to write. At that point, I had been on my healing journey probably for maybe a year and a half. And I had started to like unravel things from my past, looking at my belief systems, understanding my patterns, understanding how I was creating things, understanding where my terror barrier was, as Bob likes to call it. Like I was doing all the things. Like I was in it, right? But I couldn't tell you what I wanted. At this time I was also still in corporate, and I had thoughts of like leaving, not but they weren't like I'm gonna do this. It was just like, "Huh, that'd be really cool," right? Like, just like a glimmer, like, "Huh, that's a possibility," right? Like, very subtle, very vague, like, it was not crystal clear. It was just kinda there. So, how do we go from kinda having a picture or maybe no picture at all to be able to live the life that you truly desire, that you truly want, the one that you know you're meant to live, or you kind of know like there's something more, but I don't know what that is. That, my friend, like that is part of the path on awakening, on healing, and being on that journey. So the gap, going back to that word, not the store, right? The gap closes when something super, super simple happens, which is probably, I don't know, it was one of the hardest things for me to do. It was hard, surprisingly hard. I thought it would be easy, but it really wasn't. And that was to state it, to declare it. And that starts with an audit, like a taking inventory, right? And the way I have come to do this is to start with your core values. Because here's the thing, like if I were to tell you right now, like, hey, I want you to declare, hey, listener, I want you to declare what it is you want. And if there is some hesitation, or if you're like thinking about what other people, right? Have you seen other people do, or you're like, oh, that's really cool. Or maybe you're like, I have no idea. The reason why we start with your core values is because your core values are what you filter everything through. Everything else, having that declaration, all the things comes from starting with your core values. Like every time like people just don't understand, right? Because I'll tell my clients like, okay, first thing we're gonna do is we're gonna work on your core values. I'm gonna do my core values elicitation process with you. And they're like, I thought we were gonna do healing work. Like, oh, this is the healing work, right? Because my friend, like if you have core values that are misaligned, if you have core values that are conflict with each other, if if you don't know what your core values are, my friend, you are kind of flopping around, right? You think you know what you want, but you actually don't. And when you go through, well, I know at least for my process, when you go through my process of eliciting your core values, you understand like why you've been doing the things you've been doing, or why things are important to you, why you might feel a certain way, like frustration, right? Or anger or guilt or any of those lower frequencies, because maybe you haven't been aligned with your core values. So we go through your core values first, right? Then we look at who you are at your best. And like, I mean, at your best, like when you are like on it, firing at your best version, right? When you are at your best version, like not just ideal day, not just ideal scene, but we're talking about like how you are functioning at your best, who you are on just a normal day, like, right? So, how you are at your best, who you are on a normal, like, average day, and who you are under pressure, right? When push comes to shove, who are you? When you write those down, when you distinguish what I look like, what I look like and how I act and what I think and what I believe when I'm at my best versus who I am on an average normal day and who I am when I'm under pressure gives you some real honesty and clarity about who you are becoming. And if you don't, I've heard this from a million personal development books, speakers, videos, all through my healing journey. And that is we start with the end in mind, right? We have to know where we're going. And so if we don't have a declaration of where we're going, how do we know, first off, how do we know how to get there? How do we know when we've even arrived? How can the universe take our order, right? How can God, divine source, creation, like how can things work, right, in our favor? How can we be delivered the thing if we don't even know what we're waiting for, right? It's like it could pass you, right? It's floating along, it's driving by you, and you're just like do 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 do, right? We have to know where it is that we're going, and that's what this does, right? And then after we've done all that groundwork of looking at our core values, looking at what our how we are now choosing to live, right? That groundwork, then we can write that declaration and write that declaration across all areas of our life. So it includes our health, our relationships, our money, our soul calling, our purpose, right? Written in the present tense, right? You've seen mission statements, vision statements that people have written for themselves. This is probably like personal development 101. People will say, you know, get your mission statement, write your life purpose statement, right. If I haven't told you already, I have a story about that. It was like the very, very, very first time that I realized like I could be in control of my life. And you're like, wow, Danie, I was like 30 maybe. And I was like, oh, you mean I can decide what I want for my life? What? Right? This, my friend, this right here, doing closing that gap by doing a real audit of our core values, looking at how it is that we want to show up at our best on a just a normal everyday, like what we want to experience, who we want to be around, what we want to feel, like what we're doing, right? And who we are under pressure. When we start to get like honest and clear about what that is, then we can actually write that statement and know what it is that we actually want. And I'm not going to tell you that just sit down and write it, because here's what I know. It's hard. Especially if you haven't felt like you can do that. Like, can I? Or what do I even know? I don't even know what I want, right? I can give you some ideas. But what is it that like letting your heart's desire comes out if you had to push that away for whatever reason, right? This, my friend, is how manifestation becomes the architect. This is how we live the life that we want, the desires, our heart's desires manifested is by going through this, by closing that gap and being able to answer the question, what do you want? So here's what I'm going to leave you with. This question right now. This is a question for you to sit with this week. And that is, if someone asked you right now, where are you headed? Could you answer them in one sentence? That, my friend, is here for you to sit with. I wish you a beautiful, beautiful day, and I'll see you in the next episode. And until then, my friend, remember to keep shining your unique light.
Thank you.